I know they have information they're not making available. Oh.
Yes. Thank you.
What is this about? UFO.
Do you think that the administration is hiding information from you, or you just believe that they don't have that much?
Well, I don't think hiding is a strong word. I think they certainly have information that is not available to us yet. And 95% of what was discussed in that room today can be made public without compromising the security of this country. I reiterate that we know what the spy balloon was from China, so put that one aside. The other three instances, as they are described, both publicly and in there, are not new. I mean, we've heard the exact same description in hundreds of cases, dozens this year alone. So observing unidentified objects over U.S. airspace, particularly over sensitive areas of the country, is not new. What we heard in there described, what we've heard publicly described, sounds just like the stories we've heard repeatedly. And that's why an agency was created, an interagency task force was created to study all of this from a scientific perspective. And so my concern now is that the Department of Defense is not sharing that information with those scientists so that you can compare the data we have on these instances from the ones we have retroactively in the past, some of which have been explained, and so that we have a better understanding of this. And I think there's a stigma associated with this because of space aliens and all that stuff. This is not about that. This is about whether an adversary, in my mind, this is about whether an adversary has developed a capability that we know that they know we're not looking for, because our systems are set up to see missiles and airplanes. They're not set up to see smaller objects at lower altitudes.
If they're not new, sir, then why were they shot down?
Well, that's what's new. No, that's what's new. What's new is that that they were shot down, which is extraordinary, because we've never shot down anything in 65 years of NORAD, and over one weekend they shot down 3 things. So, but the bigger concern now that everyone wants to know is what is it and what were they doing here, and but as they describe what's been observed, we have hundreds and hundreds of these over the years. The report that was issued by the Department of National Intelligence earlier this year lists over 500 such cases, dozens this year alone. So the question now has to be, why are they setting up a new task force? Take this data, make it immediately available to those scientists so you can enter it into that database, but also so you can cross-reference it and compare it to the other hundreds of cases that we have. That's the only way you're going to begin to get answers about what it is we're dealing with here, who it belongs to, what it's doing here. I imagine some of these are going to have explanations that are pretty simplistic. Others are going to be more complicated. I imagine some are frankly going to be crafts that were launched by a company or an individual or whatever, and others may not be. They may be nation states that have developed some rudimentary capability that can collect intelligence or test the aerospace defenses of the United States, but I'm speculating. That's why we want this to be handled from a data and scientific perspective, but it begins by using this process that Congress created for them. And so far it appears they're not using that.
Senator, it sounds like a lot of lawmakers coming out of this briefing are confident that the American public is not in danger. Do you share that viewpoint after this briefing today?
Well, I don't think there's any indication that the objects were here to launch weapons against us. But if one of these things, if an airplane sucks a vulture into its engine, it's going to go down, or could go down. So most certainly, if it takes an object the size of an ATV or a car or a barrel, collides with an airplane, we're going to have a catastrophic event. So that's a danger, because not only is it going to kill the people on that plane, it's going to kill the people on the ground where that plane crashes. So if it's not a danger, then why'd they shoot these things down? They shot it down because they felt it was operating at an altitude that posed a threat to commercial aviation. There is a reason why we restrict who can fly where and when, so things don't crash into each other. If we have things flying over our airspace that is not ours, did not coordinate with us, and doesn't belong there, that is the definition of danger.
Do you agree with the administration?
Is it a new policy to just shoot it down?
What's that?
Is it a new policy then just to shoot it down?
We've never shot them down before. That sounds like new to me. And again, I'm not...
Did you ask, though, what if this is a new strategy moving forward?
I didn't ask. I know just because I had one question. They give you one question in there. But I don't think the answer to that is it is new. I mean, these are not the first time we've cited unidentified objects over U.S. airspace. It's just the first time we shoot them down.
There should be a better process going forward.
Well, as far as the process, I don't dispute that these things should have been brought down. My question really is the most important question we have to answer now is, what are these things? Who sent them here? And what are they doing here? And the only way you're going to get answers to that is not just to retrieve whatever's left of them, but to understand how it compares to the hundreds of other similar cases. Because what bothers me the most is everyone's acting like this is the first time we've ever seen these things, and so we reacted that way. No, it isn't. We've had hundreds and hundreds of cases reported by military personnel. We've been talking about it for years, and there's a process now that's been set up to analyze these, and this data should be a part of that process immediately, not a year from now, not 6 months from now, right away, so we can cross-compare it to those previous instances and maybe begin to get some answers faster than we would otherwise.
Senator,
Are they getting a lot of information?
Outline a new policy, though, on how they're going to deal with this?
No, I have no understanding, nor does anyone else, about how they're going to handle it the next time one of these is made of.
The alien origin?
The what?
Do you rule out the alien origin, extraterrestrial origin?
The alien origin?
Yeah, you said
I don't know what we could do about that. I would almost hope it is at some point, because if this is the Chinese or the Russians or someone's invented a capability that we can't monitor, that sounds like a big problem.
Is there any timeline in informing the American people of what these things are?
My timeline's immediate, at least. Well, we have to know what we're talking about. But I do think that when you shoot things down over the airspace of this country for the first time in the 65-year history of NORAD, you owe the American people more than some hurriedly called press conference in the middle of the Super Bowl.
Senator, what's your message to the American people who might have questions, who might wonder where this is going?
My message to the American people is that 99% of what they told us in there, I said 95 coming out, is probably closer to 99. I've adjusted but my message is that 99% of the information we were just briefed on, there's no reason it can't be shared with the American people. It wouldn't compromise the security of this country.
What do you want to tell the American people? Should they be concerned? Should they be fearful? Are these...
I don't think anybody needs to be concerned that something bad is going to happen to them today walking down the street from something overhead. I think what they should be concerned about is that their government has a process in place to analyze these things in a way that allows us to get closer to understanding what we're dealing with. And I'm concerned right now that that's not the process that's in place, that we've now created a brand new process headed by the National Security Council, when we already have an existing process that's staffed with scientists and experts who have already collected on hundreds of previous incidents almost identical to this one, and who could use this data from this incident to compare to those and begin to get us closer to answers about who's flying this stuff here and what is it doing here.
Were you given any more details? The China spy balloon, can you just talk about, a lot of the payload was recovered. Can you talk, how much are they learning from?
Well, that's probably the 1% that I can't share at this point. It sounds like they know more about it than they did a week ago, but that I think is critical to our national security, and so that's certainly a piece that I won't discuss. But as far as the other 3 incidents, they were not Chinese spy balloons in the sense that they look anything like what was previously.
Have they identified a country of origin?
They have no nation. They don't know whose it is. They don't even know what it is. They can't even tell you what it looked like beyond.
Are you confident they'll know those answers?
Am I confident they'll know those answers? I don't know, so I guess I'm not confident that they'll know those answers. I think they'll have more answers if they take the data that was collected from the sensors on the aircraft that engaged them and share that with Aero, the office of that was set up to analyze these things, so that the scientists and experts at Aero can not just analyze that data, but cross-compare it to the other data we've collected from the hundreds of other incidents and begin to get a clearer picture of what we're dealing with. That's the only way you're ever going to get an answer to this, and that process is so far not happening.
So are they doing that now?
No.